ago. They were going to the library. The library said, nothing's going on here. That's why we're running a little bit late. We're going to start off with Pete Peterson, and he's kind of thrown something together on his own, in a nutshell, about our department. Pete.
Thank you. Anybody who can't hear me, tell me, I'll yell a little louder. First off, I want to start off today by thanking everybody for coming today. I want to go around the room here and kind of introduce everybody as far as, and I want you guys in your own words to tell you your name, your rank, and how many years you've been in the department. I'll start off with Chief Terry.
Well, the name, Jerry Wakefield, 30, almost 33 years, next month.
I'm Bobby Cooper. I've been on the fire department for 13 years. I'm currently the training officer.
I'm Jerry Seiler, been on the department 14 years, and just firefighter.
I've been on for 12 years, and I'm the rated firefighter.
I'm Dave Cooper. I've been on 30, coming up on 2 years, I think, and I'm the secretary treasurer.
As I said, my name is Pete Peterson. I'm currently the captain. I've been almost 25 years. So you can see we've had a diverse crowd. A lot of members are not here, and not only the years of service, but also the backgrounds we do is, this is a 100% volunteer organization. And I kind of hesitate with the word volunteer sometimes because we do get a stipend for clothing allowance and for the number of runs, but we still consider ourselves volunteers because it's not our full-time job. It's something we do as a crazy hobby, if you will. We have diverse, like I said, backgrounds, and we have a couple of myself, we have a couple of full-time firemen for other departments that still live in the community and are gracious enough to still serve for us and help us in backgrounds, especially him being a training officer, teaching us how to do things better. Because, you know, as volunteers, we're not always up to speed as far as the latest and greatest, but we really can do that way in the training side of it. So I'm going to kind of go through things here. It's going to be a little bit canned because I want to make sure I don't miss anything. But the biggest thing is, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Before we get started, I want to thank Judy Burns for, I used a little bit of our website to get some of my background and some of this stuff. But Jeff's going to do more of the history. But currently, in order to be a Culver Fire, let me preface this also by saying when I say the word Culver Fire Department, that is my slang for saying Culver Union Township Fire Department. Do not want to slide in the township. I do live in the township. It's great, but I will say Culver a lot of times. The Culver Union Township Fire Department, in order to be a member, you first have to be approved as an employee of the town of Culver. You have to be voted on by the membership of the department, and then you begin your probation and training process as set forth by the state of Indiana to become a certified firefighter. A new Culver firefighter is issued a dispatch radio and/or pager, a blue light, gloves, boots, Nomex hood, turnout coat, pants, helmet, and a locker to stow it on. As you can see back here, a lot of stuff, a lot of slang I used to. Maybe if you guys are nice enough, we may have somebody donning off equipment to show you how it works. But the Nomex hood is the hood that looks like a ski mask that goes underneath our helmet, so it also fire protects our ears and everything else that the coat and the pants and gloves do not cover. We also are issued items, other non-firefighting items such as a badge, dress uniforms, and casual shirts. I'm not a model by any means. Any new firefighter must meet a minimum of 60 hours of mandated training and testing just to be issued a radio and pager on the department. This has kind of morphed over the years, but now, in order to be certified to ride a truck on the Culver Fire Department, you have to have an additional 160 hours of training to get the classification certification of Firefighter 1 and Firefighter 2. So you can see to be a committed volunteer on the department, it constitutes a minimum of 220 hours of classroom training and or practical skills training. A lot of on-the-job stuff we provide here. It's with all the years of experience, makes a pretty natural fit to take care of that thing and give us some of the insights and some of the, non-book related experience. You also have to pass the standardized testing to become a Fire 1 and Fire 2. So not only do you have to go through all of that, all the class hours of training, you also have to pass standardized testing, which also is done by full-time fire departments. So we are almost held to the same standard as full-time firefighters being volunteers anymore. And I think a little bit of that criteria has been upped since 9/11, trying to get everybody on the same page, and we all still are basically members of Homeland Security to a degree. So it's, like I said, everything's changed since that horrendous event. Right now, we're not required to become a first responder, but we do have first responders, EMTs, advanced EMTs, and paramedics. Additional certifications held are items such as arson, diving, teaching, swiftwater rescue, just to name a few. We have tons of certifications here over the years that came and went, but a lot of background in this department. All dispatches for us to come to the fire station for a fire scene are made through a radio or pager we have. And let's see here, all firefighters respond to the station. Only the fire chief and assistant chief currently can respond directly to the dispatch scene. A lot of local fire departments, volunteers, you will get there and there will be a lot of personal vehicles. We consider them in the way a lot of times, but they go straight to the scene. We have to come here, be organized, and ride on an apparatus to go to the scene and make sure we have all the equipment we need. With that said, we run a blue light, as you see coming through the community, down to the station. The blue light is what we call a courtesy light. It actually is no different than a yellow light you would see on a snowplow. Courtesy gives us no superpowers, but we ask forgiveness in the community to give us an open shot to get down here and do what we need to do. So we also run those in our vehicles, and like I said, we are mandated to come directly to the station. We are currently dispatched to come to the station by the Marshall County 911 radio service, and it is done, like I said, via the radio, text. We get now too that also helps us in that progression of recent, evolution of technology. Right now, the fire station in Culver the fire siren in Culver still exists and serves as the firewall and communications. But in the beginning, the fire siren was the only way that firefighters came to the station. Next came fire phones, kind of complemented the siren, which rang directly into the firefighters' homes. The phone was followed, but it was only in a few homes, this was also followed by the phones only being in a few firefighters' homes, along with Adler's Osborne's Mini Mart, that one or the other would turn around and dispatch us at that point in time. During the time when we had the fire phones in all the homes, it acted just as a party line. I know most of us now remember old party lines. When you pick it up and you hear all your neighbors' phone calls. Virtually that's what it was. Somebody would stay on the line until everybody picked it up and heard where to go to the fire scene. At that point, that evolved also to where we're at today is everything is dispatched by the 911 system, alleviating everyone having to know that somewhere in your house you always had what the 842-2121 or fire number was because there was no 911. But today, currently, we run 100% on the 911 system. We still have the sirens in town. Different sirens for different things, but the main one downtown still goes off, tests daily at noon. We kind of humorously call it the noon moo because it just kind of starts and stops real quick and doesn't really go through the full cycle. Currently, all the sirens you hear in town in a broken pattern. So if it goes and stops, it goes and stops. That is nothing more than means that the firemen report to the station. If you hear a long, non-stop siren, it still, as has been in years past, still means there's severe weather in the area or a disaster warning for public to seek shelter. Any questions on that? I rambled through that pretty doggone fast. I got a couple fun facts here for us before I hand it off. We currently have 2 engines. An engine is basically an apparatus that pumps water. We have 2 of them out in the parking lot, and we have another one we call a pumper tanker that carries water along with having a pump. It's classified as a pumper. Our town is considered a 3-engine town for engine certifications. Our tanker carries 4,000 gallons of water. We have a rescue squad out there also that has all of our hydraulic tools for mostly rescues and things of that nature, but it has most everything you think of. It's kind of our mobile hardware store. We also have 2 grass trucks. We have a pickup truck, kind of a catch-all, and we have a pontoon boat that is on the lake for the months of the year where there's water that can sustain the boat in the winter time. We have a flat-bottom John boat on our trailer, so we can go to any rescues on water that's mobile besides Max and also Max. And we also have a hovercraft, a very interesting piece of boat we picked up not too many years ago that can be used on a lot of different capacities. But it's over there also if you guys want to have a chance to go look at it. And then our latest and greatest, it's in order right now, is we've got an aerial ladder coming in, which will be a very valuable added piece of equipment. Other things we have, thermal imaging camera, which is laying on the table over there. We have rescue tools on 2 of our trucks. And we have SCBA tanks, which the bottles are filled over here at these tanks. You get a spare bottle behind there. But it's the bottles we put on our backs to breathe self-contained breathing apparatus for the air that we use to breathe in structural firefighting. And we also have dive team gear. And I'll leave you with a couple quick fun facts. We have 3,000 feet of 5-inch hose on 3 of our trucks. That's a lot of hose, a lot of big hose. It carries a lot of water. I think there's a roll of it over there. But it's real big stuff, and it's usually hooked to hydrants. But we can push and pull water a long ways with that. And we also have 3 35-foot ladders. And that's, I'm also on the planning commission here in town, so it's kind of humorous stuff. It's fine, but currently our building ordinance only allows buildings to go up to 35 feet tall. Well, we have 3 35-foot fire ladders. But anybody that's ever used a ladder, when you put up a ladder properly, you don't get to 35 feet. I wasn't involved in that original math, but today, it's kind of hard. I'm figuring we've got to get the thing bolted to the side of the house. But that in itself shows that we got a very valuable need for the aerial ladder that we got coming in sometime in the near future. And like I said, that's all I got in the spiel. If you got any questions, please ask. Go ahead.
When you get the new ladder truck, how much training is that going to take?
Oh boy, that's beyond me. That's a lot.
Bob?
How many
players?
It's a very specialized piece of equipment, obviously, and it's nothing we've ever had before, so you're gonna see it out a lot. When it's initially delivered, the company will come and spend 3 days with us, and probably a small group of maybe 5 or 6 guys to kind of do a train-the-trainer deal, and then after that, we'll pass that along to the rest of the department. So there's gonna be hours and hours and hours, so you will see that thing all over the community, because we'll have to find out where we can reach with, where we need to set up on certain buildings and be able to reach the roof.
Sounds like you got a volunteer house right there.
Regarding the big truck, the new one, how close are you as far as the goal goes for purchasing it?
Well, I tell you what, I'm going to defer a lot of this stuff. Feel free to jump in there, Chief.
At present, when we started the thing, we were trying to raise $1 million. But a year, it's been 2 years since I've been on this project trying to get it together. And I think right now we're within $8,000 of raising all the funds they raised.
And on that same note, we are very, very fortunate as Culver Township Fire Department as far as what our town, our volunteers, our donations that we have to put here. I mean, we always ask for more, and it's for the safety of the community, but we are, I'm not going to say spoiled, but we're very, very, very fortunate what we have, and it's a necessity. And for fundraising and stuff like that, it seems like to me, this building, we built it with our own labor. This building was from donations from the community, 100%, this side of the building, I should say. And then we renovated the building over there on the other side a little bit, and that was from there too. So we are very blessed. Yes, sir.
Do you have recommendations for home fire extinguishers? Type, how many?
Myself, a regular ABC fire extinguisher is good.
Yeah, the red dry chem ones you get at like Lowe's or Walmart, we typically recommend 1 per floor and then 1 in the kitchen. Smoke detector, same thing, 1 per floor and then 1 outside all your bedrooms. Carbon monoxide detector, 1 per floor.
I don't think you'd ever have too many.
Yeah.
They're rated at certain poundage. It doesn't always mean that's what it weighs. I mean, it's just, you can never have enough. Right when you're about to get it out, you're running. So bigger is better. Yes, sir.
You guys sell fire extinguishers here?
We do not, but it's just one of those things, I guess we're always, if you want to ask a recommendation, we're always, available to do that, but we do not have any on. I'll tell you the reason is they have to be certified and they have to be all the time, and it'd be like shelf life of bread, you only have so long you can move them, and we just can't turn them. We have donated some in the past, but we don't have any.
Right, all our fire extinguishers that we carry on the truck are serviced by a company. Every year they come in, certify them, recertify them, charge them if we use them on a car fire, they recharge them, certify them. So we don't take care of that, that's done by, otherwise it's a license to play that game, we do not do that. We do offer free smoke detectors for anybody in the community that needs them. Actually have installed quite a few of them myself. We go through I believe it's the 3rd grade now that we're on. Every kid in the 3rd grade, we go to them and ask them if they'd like a smoke detector or if they have one when we do stop, drop, and roll and safety. And we do hundreds of these through the years. Hundreds of these smoke detectors try to pick on one age, because otherwise you give them the high school kids that got them in 3rd grade, they're going, we have those. But we try to pick on a certain grade every year, just keep that going every year. So once they get to that age, or the smoke detector, take it home to your parents. If you have one, fine. If you don't, we know you have one now.
And Terry, how are you getting those? Do you have to purchase them?
Those smoke detectors are they're donated by the company.
That's great.
They've been donated, last week, as a matter of fact, they said they're getting ready to send us another shipment of them. We do have them, they're at town hall. If you don't see one of these guys, go down there and they'll give you one.
A quick fact on fire extinguisher, anybody, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm believing I'm not perfect. If you use a fire extinguisher, type 1 like me, I just use a bit, that's still good, I'll put the pin right back in. Nope, there's enough grit and calc and stuff in there, the valve won't seal right. So may make you feel warm and fuzzy, may work 2 days later, but long term, it's once it's used, it's got to be done. Question? Did I see a question down here? Yes.
Jerry was telling me that when you get your new truck, what you're doing with the old truck, can you share that with how you help other fire departments, do the same where the truck is going to possibly go to that employee?
At this point in time, it is nothing more than we are
Talking.
going to be sold or whatever to another department, and we are in hopes that a local department will have the funding to purchase that, and we do the best we can to keep it local, but yet still be open to it. So you know, get all the things. You really can't earmark it, but yet you got to figure it out. But no, it's great, and we've done that a lot in years past. And like you said, nobody always likes a hand-me-down, but boy, I tell you what, when you're fortunate enough to have something that you are taking out of service that's better than somebody else has in their service, I mean, they're pushing. Don't get me wrong, but it's just, there's a demand out there for it. Somebody else? Great to see everybody in the crowd here today. Great weather, it's going to get warmer.
I was going to say, if you have other questions, I think what we're doing today is I'm going to do my thing pretty quickly.
Sure.
And then we're going to have a roundtable. So I think the opportunity will be there for everybody, to ask questions and these guys to share some memories and
ask any firefighter. Don't ask me. They're all more wiser than me by far.
Because I think my experience is everybody has about 1 million questions eventually. So give me 1 second here and get the show on the road here. Nope, that's the wrong thing. There we go. All right, I'm going to turn this up. Okay, everybody hear me now? Probably too much. Well, first of all, I forgot I gave it this really dramatic sort of Pulp Fiction title a few years ago. This is really the 3rd time I've done this program. I did it, 4, 5, 6 years ago here, and I've done it, once else in town. So hopefully, it's not too dull if you've already seen it, but it's never dull, right? Because that's the thing. Everybody loves the whole fire department, firefighting thing. I mean, I was thinking about the fire whistle, and I don't know if anybody else who grew up in town was like my sister and I, but you hear that fire whistle and you're like, where are the trucks? You're going to chase them, if you possibly can, find out what the fire is, so it's exciting. I also want to thank, to just kind of acknowledge Judy Burns for her website. I think for the last 15 years or so, we sort of had this unofficial partnership where I'd put something up and she'd get some info and put it on her website. I'd put it on, so some of this information, it was a lot easier to get thanks to Judy's work, and so it's kind of been a good kind of distant collaboration. But all right, so just a quick run through on the history of firefighting in Culver, which to some extent is, you know, the history of firefighting in America, right? Because all these changes go with certain, you know, sort of trends. And by the way, we wanted to make sure you got the full experience of fighting fire, hence the temperature. It's nice and warm. So this is a Sanborn fire map of Culver. This is a 1906 map. I think it's the first one they did, but for you know, several decades, you know, the Sanborn Company would put out these fire maps of towns so that the firemen would know where, you know, certain buildings were, stores, houses, that kind of thing. If you're trying to fight a fire, it helps you to know where. We'll get back to the significance of the year 1906 in a second. Just a quick background on how much fire has shaped what we know of as Culver today. This building is the Culver Park Assembly Chautauqua. This is what Henry Harrison Culver started. That wood frame building at the left is where Main Barrack is located at the Academy. Why is fire important? Well, in 1889, he started his religious Chautauqua camp there. That's the tabernacle or preaching area on the right. And it didn't, you know, it did okay, but he changed his direction in 1894, started the Academy in that building. But you see, we have video, right? In February of 1895, this wood frame building burns. That's physically almost the end of the Academy, although by you know, fall of 1895, he's got the 3-story, now 4-story brick building built. That was a big selling point, by the way, for the Academy, is it's fireproof buildings, because fires in schools were a major problem. In fact, probably Culver Military Academy would have died by 1896 or 1897 had there not been a fire in Mexico, Missouri that burned down their military academy and brought the students here. So, you know, fire has played a pretty significant role even early on in what kind of put Culver on the map. This is the first Culver Volunteer Fire Department. It's organized February 3rd, 1903 at the William Foss Harness Shop on South Main Street. You had to pay $1 to join, which of course was to raise funds for firefighting equipment, which in those days was rubber buckets and a ladder. The Culver Water Department is going to be created soon after. I'll get back to that in a second. The Plymouth Fire Department donated the first hand cart, and that was it. That's firefighting in 1903. What's kind of neat is here at the station, these guys still have the original minutes books. So they have that 1903 handwritten minutes book with all the original firemen listed there and all their minutes from the very beginning. You can just kind of see. They also had really great handwriting, right? Just some pictures of the early equipment. An inventory, 2 extinguishers, 22 rubber buckets. This is within a few years of starting. One of those buckets reported to be no good. 13 cans of chemical and 1 very heavy ladder. The town board was asked to consider the fire department's request for 2 sets of ladders, 2 ladders and hooks, 1 cart for ladders, 1 fire hook with chain, 2 keys for the church. Why the church? Any theories? Why would you need the key to the church? The bell tower, exactly. Yeah, they needed that was there's no siren, right? So they go in and they would ring the bell to alert the firemen and the town that there's a fire. And so the board agreed to that. Another major fire, you know, you could just do a whole talk on fires at the Academy before 1950. Again, really, and the town too. But this is the original little gym. It burns in 1905, the gymnasium. Bucket lines were formed from the lagoon on the campus to the building. It had been built in 1902, so it's only 3 years old. It's replaced in 1907, and I don't want to have any spoilers, but it burns down. The replacement burns down in 1977. So another big fire, September of 1905. The 1897 built St. Mary of the Lake Catholic Church, which was just down the street on Lakeshore Drive here at the time. It was Lakeshore, Lake Street, and it was hit by lightning in the fall and burned down. You can see, of course, Culver is a tourist destination in these years between 1883 and say 1915, and you might bring as many as 5,000 to 7,000 people here every weekend in the summer. And so they're staying in these beautiful hotels. One of the most lavish is the Colonnade Hotel, just about a block that way on this side of Lakeshore Drive. You can see the old train station. There's the Colonnade behind it. I circled that guy's name because he's the proprietor who seemed to take the money and the fire goes and he leaves town. So I'm trying to remember what year the Colonnade burned. It was, I think, 1901 when it burned. But Colonnade Hotel was a big, beautiful hotel with its own skating rink and fountains and all that burned down. Oh, there it is once again. Look at the video. Another major fire in the area. This is one of the original ice houses on the lake. This is in 1906. Actually, an Academy cadet took those pictures from across the lake. This was located on South Street there, and kind of that dip down, one of the early ice houses. You can see that. That's not the one that's going to end up where the cove is, the Culver Cove is on Jefferson. Another ice house. They did continue to have an ice operation there. Another one burned later. Another major historic fire, the stables at Culver Military Academy burned in 1915, killing all 66 horses. It's a terrible fire. You can see there's a plaque near the chapel, the memorial chapel. There's a boulder with a bronze plaque commemorating those horses. Even though it's not funny, there's still a cartoon was in the yearbook at the time. And you probably can't read the text, but as mother and father saw the fire, and he says, "Come, fair one, I will save thee." And they're all amazed at this kid's bravery, right? How John saw the fire. So here's the student. He's aren't you going to save your horse? He says, "No, I'm too sleepy." So he doesn't want to get up and fight the fire and save the horse. I thought it was funny. Anyway, this is the old tabernacle, the original preaching of Chautauqua area that had become the first gymnasium for the academy, and it becomes a trunk room. And in 1918, major fire burns all the stuff that the cadets had brought, so quite a lot, and it was really the last of those original buildings. 1918 also sees the superintendent's home, Colonel Genolette's home. Oh, that's no, it wasn't Genolette. Colonel Genolette burning down. Cadets, along with the Culver Fire Department, tried to put it out on the house was saved, but a lot of damage. This is the original depot, the original train station. It was east of today's depot, the brick depot. This is the one that went up in the 1880s to accommodate all those, the running of the railroad, etc. Obviously, it's wood frame. And in January of 1920, it catches fire and burns, as you see, completely. What's interesting about that is that it's, 1920 is the fire. We don't get the current depot until 1925, so there's a long delay before they put up the new train, the current brick train station that we still have today, thanks to the Lions Club, rescuing it in the 1980s. This is one that Craig Hopple, if you remember Craig Hopple, if you know Craig Hopple, was our elementary school assistant principal. He is, his family had a number of historic photos. He gave me these pictures. This is a 1922 fire at the Farrier Lumber Yard. If you don't know where the Farrier Lumber Yard is, that's over where the condominiums are on Jefferson Street on the, I'm directionally mixed up now, north side of Jefferson. And many of us will remember the lumber building that came up later. But this is a big fire. It's so big that they really thought they were going to lose the town. There's a lot of lumber there, and even the regional state papers reported this, that if it hadn't rained, Culver may have burned down because it's a gigantic fire. Another important building in Culver's history, this is the Lakeview Clubhouse originally. This is why we have a railroad in Culver. This is why we have a town, arguably, not really, but why we've continued to grow and thrive as a town. We had a town before this, but the railroad comes through Culver thanks to the efforts of a group of Plymouth businessmen who built this clubhouse on the highest point of the Indian Trails, just over there. And they end up selling it to the railroad company, and it becomes the hotel for the railroad company there by the town park. Big, beautiful hotel, one of many, as I mentioned. And it really has seen its heyday before this, but it burns in 1929. And I talked to one person who's gone now who said, she always understood it was one of the hobos, because this is the point, now it may or may not be true, but this is the point where hobos are beginning to kind of ride the rails and hold up in these abandoned buildings like this, so it burns down. This is the boathouse that went with the Culver Inn. At the time was the Palmer House. It burns, Max Kentucky Inn actually. It burns in the early 1930s. And just a list of these early fires, just at the academy, you can see main barracks, twice the gymnasium, the stables, the recreation building, which had been the original riding hall, the Palmer House boathouse, the boat shed, which is where all the whole fleet of naval school boats was stored, superintendent's home, trunk room, farmhouse barn, some of you remember that near the golf course. The hotel fires, the Colonnade, the Ralston, the Arlington, These are all these big, the Lakeview Hotel. The bathhouse, that's an important one. Our beach lodge right across the street replaced the old bathhouse, which had been a wood frame. It was essentially a beach lodge, and it burned in 1935, 33. And that leads to the WPA project that gives us today's beach lodge being renovated. The first and I believe only fireman killed in the line of duty from Culver is Chief Cromley, Chief Alfred Cromley, and this is in 1934. It's obviously a huge tragedy. He's on his way to a fire on the East Shore. They're at the sharp curve on the south end of East Shore. The road had recently been oiled. Of course, firemen in those days were riding on the back, as they continue to do for many years after that. And ironically, they lived. The firemen on the back are not killed. He's crushed basically under the fire truck. But the others, there's some injuries, but no one is killed. So other than him, so he's and of course he was commemorated. Was it? I want to say it was 2012. I mean, that was after 2012 when the Fireman's Memorial, we'll talk about in a minute, is put up across the street. And I know his family was acknowledged a few years ago. His descendants, as just being descendants of the first and only. A lot of fires through the years. This is the Marmon Garage on the East Shore. Medburn Ice House burned. Now this is 1943, so this is after the ice house had shut down. As far as still cutting ice, but they still had ice stored there, and that was really the end of the ice houses in Culver, which sold ice all over the Midwest in their heyday, and that's the last one. The Newman Dairy Farm, it's another huge fire in 1938. They were one of the most successful dairies in Indiana, and that was quite a large fire. Relating to Cheryl's family, the high-speed recap tire company. So this is during the war years. It really particularly was humming. This was, you would retread tires, right? Because you're rationing rubber and other things. And so this is down on between, just west of the Culver Cove on Jefferson Street, on the south side of the street. And it was quite a fire, as you can imagine. A lot of black smoke, a lot of chemicals, the rubber in there. You can see the view kind of heading towards downtown. That's this is from the back of the building. That's the Methodist church that used to be downtown on Main Street. So, jumping ahead in time, but I wanted to mention this. The building, so this is the old fire station, right? And a lot of you may remember it. I certainly remember the water tower being there. This is on Plymouth and Cass Streets. Today it's a parking lot. Why is it there? Why are the firemen there? I thought this was really interesting. A handful of years ago, and I was still covering news for the Citizen, the town was getting an expanded, renovated water department. And so, this is history nerd level like 10, right? I'm like, oh, where did we get water in Culver? When did that start, And so what it's kind of surprised me, because I imagined municipal water starting with this desire for everybody to just get water in their home, turn the tap, that's really not how it started. It really started with firefighting, because everybody in town 100 years ago had a well, just as people do out of town, right? So everybody had their own individual well. But in 1906, the firemen, this department's 3 years old at this point, and they're going, we really are having trouble fighting fires. I mean, where are you getting water to fight these fires? Bucket brigade, maybe you've got some portable tank that you can bring, but you don't have much water. So this push is what happens around the country. In every municipality, the water department begins with the desperate need to fight fires. You just can't get water to people. So the firemen propose in 1906, and the town agrees, we need to run water lines, we need to get a water station, and that's really what begins all of it. And of course, then the town hall kind of grows up around it, the fire department grows up around it, because it all started with firefighting. It all started as a municipal firefighting effort. So I thought that was really interesting, and only later does it evolve into sort of trucking water into our homes so we can drink it. So the fire station, we'll get to its different changes, but for much of the 20th century, or at least about half the 20th century, it's there on Plymouth and Cass Streets. And you can see this is the 1948 fire crew. I would mention Art Fishburne because he's one of the founding members from 1903. And of course, Dave Burns is in there. He's going to become chief. Memorable chief. You can see the town hall and fire and police, by the way. Another spectacular fire. This is the second St. Mary of the Lake Catholic Church, 1948. The priest who was sent here to start that was Father Lenk, who's a World War II chaplain. So what's he bring? He brings a Quonset hut to be the church. And it burns down in a spectacular fire, says the citizen, in 1954. But that actually does lead to the building of the present building. Of course, you can see the remnants of it. Another really memorable fire from that era, Easter Sunday, 1957, the top level of the hardware store. And it's a testament to the firefighters that there's still a hardware store. It's just only one floor. So they were able to put out the fire on the upper level. No one was hurt or killed. So, and we still have a hardware. So, I mean, it's not a hardware today, but we still have the building. Here's Dave Burns, chief for many years, and certainly just one of Culver's memorable personalities. And of course, Pete referenced the phone calls, right? Someone had to sit with that phone. When I was a kid, my mom dispatched ambulance, and it was the same way at that time. Before 911, somebody had to sit with the phone, and if you were going to leave your house and you were a dispatcher, you had to get someone else to cover it. So the chief's wife would cover the phone if he was away. And if she had to leave, a neighbor had to come. Someone else can speak to that more than me, but I always thought that was interesting. It was suggested she be given a $300 annual salary for her efforts. Dave Burns retires from the fire department in 1974. But one of the things he did was in the 1950s, he takes on the project trying to raise funds for two-way radio equipment for the fire department. Here he is with the successful results. Still working through all that stuff these days with communication. What's this picture? This is one of these big events in the nation that changes firefighting. Obviously, again, I didn't by any means catalog all the big fires of Culver and the surrounding area up to the mid-century, but there are a ton of them, right? You see, and why? Well, obviously, electricity is crude, it's evolving as the times go on. People are heating and cooking with fire or coal. Building standards, there aren't necessarily building codes that are going to protect buildings very well. Even how we clean our buildings, gymnasiums and schools, things like that, flammable stuff, right? So there's just not a tight sense of how you prevent fire. So this is a fire in Chicago at Our Lady of Angels Elementary School in 1958, and I'm trying to remember, 92 children and 3 nuns died in this fire. So, I mean, a lot of bad stuff had happened up to then, but I think this was, from what I understand, it's kind of a turning point where people are going, yeah, we have to do something because they didn't have a proper fire escape. They didn't, all the cleaning they did was flammable in the building. So it was just like your worst case scenario. So this helps kick off more and more and more of these efforts where firefighting really starts before these guys get there, hopefully, right? Our smoke detectors, our building codes, these kind of things, and that, are making sure our electricity is properly set up. That's super important in keeping fires from happening. So, thankfully, we don't have nearly the fires we used to have because of those kind of changes. So obviously, here we are, the fire department here. This building was originally a Tractor Supply Company. In the late 60s, I think it was 68, the town hall moved to this building. Along with the fire department. I think the police went with them. So, everybody got jammed into this just a brick at the time. It wasn't this extension. That lasted a little while, and then by 1976, the town hall and police had moved into the current, what was originally the Citizen Press building there on Plymouth Street, their current home, and that left this as the fire station, which I think was a much better arrangement in terms of space. And of course, over the years, the firemen, I'll mention that bell in the picture up at the left. That's the bell from the old Maximcutty Village Methodist Protestant church that went down about 1966. I mean, the bell did. The church is still there. And so that bell goes back to the early 20th century. And it's the one that's it's across the street. But of course, over the years, the fire department has not just put out fires, and it hasn't even just promoted fire safety. There's been the Fireman's Festival, which became still is an annual event, kind of a go-to event in Culver every summer in July. Yeah.
We have one of the original installers of the bell right here.
Oh, were you? Okay, there you go. He might be in that picture somewhere. Oh, there we go. Down in the lower left. There he is. Yeah, well, we got to talk to him at some point before we're done today. So, and I don't remember if I have pictures in here of Santa Claus. That's another big, as a kid, right? Santa comes in on the fire truck. That's a big deal. So, just a lot of these services that aren't necessarily directly related to fires, but make make for a better community and a lot of fun for a lot of us. 2003, the house where we're standing now, sitting now, goes down, and that gives room for this expansion we see. 2016, there's a major renovation that I think the firemen did all on your own, right? Inside here, just to really tweak it up and just, update the building. Here we are in 1965. So many names we could talk about. This one I wanted to include. This is 1967. Art Fishburne, again, is one of the founding members. This is his funeral procession to the cemetery. I think this is kind of what is often done with firemen when they pass away, is this special kind of procession to the cemetery, the signing off on the radio. It's kind of a meaningful, impactful way to do that. Another big fire at Grace Church. Doesn't burn down, but it's such a damaging fire that the current church that we see today is a result. The sanctuary, or the basement, just a lot of the space. 1972, this huge fire at the Lakeshore Garage. So this is just next, a couple blocks away. Today's Osborne's Subway. That was, there's a lot of, as I understand, a lot of chemicals stored in there. And there were a lot of chemicals stored in there. And so it was a pretty spectacular, difficult fire to put out. Look at that black smoke. But that paved the way for the ice cream shop that followed, so as a kid, that was cool. Here's Dave Burns getting a new fire truck. Of course, that's a whole other story, is the evolution of equipment from, the hand carts to the steam trucks to the contemporary fire trucks. So I mentioned the little gym from 1907 that replaced the one that burned itself, 1977, which led to the 1980 gym that we see today at Culver Academy. I remember this one myself, the grain elevator. Do I have video of that? That was quite a huge fire, October of 1978. The long-standing, at least back to the 1930s, the grain elevator. Of course, grain tends to make for quite the fire. Oh, here we go. Play. And it's not. Oh. Well, okay. There's a video of that. Anyway, grain elevator. Another one, interestingly, within a week of the grain elevator, October 1978, the bowling alley. There, just the next block over, burns down. I remember watching that as a kid as it happened, and it seemed like a ginormous skyscraper fire. It really wasn't, but it seemed like it. We don't have great photos of it, but 1985, Maxagunky Village really changed. There still was one operating store yet. There was two really, Bigley's Orchard Store and the Manor Market, and that one burned in 1985. Of course, if you see the plaques outside on the building, the brick building, honoring Don Meitzel, who's also the town marshal for 20 years, died in 1984, and then Dave Burns, who served from 1934 to 74, and was chief for 33 years. He died in 1990. Lance Overmeyer became chief in 93. A lot of us remember Lance's time as chief. There he is with Bill Snyder, another veteran fireman. They're both, of course, gone. Lance had joined the force in 1965 and served as chief from 93 to 2006. Mike Grover was the chief following him. Lance died in 2011, and Bill Snyder passed away in 2010. And again, just kind of some images of what the firemen do. A lot of the education around town, the fire drills, fire safety in schools. With the Citizen, I covered that a lot. They're going to the preschools, they're going to the elementary schools. The kids are being brought here. There's a lot of time put into those kind of efforts. And again, some scenes from the Firemen's Festival. which, by the way, 2 weeks from today, right? Isn't it? 2 weeks from today, this evening? Yeah. Fireman's Fest, so there's an opportunity to plug that, right? So, yeah. What time does it start? Is it 5-ish?
5-ish. After you get done, go across the street, get your hamburgers and your corn. So you come across the street. Right.
Yep.
5, 6 o'clock.
Lions Club Corn Roast and Fireman's Festival. Good, sort of double header there, right? Again, the training. They already referenced this, so I don't need to be repetitive, and I'm sure we'll touch back on it. But the hours of training that go, and these are, extrication training over here, and fire extinguisher training. Thank you, the brain. Just so many hours of training that go into what they have to do. Oh, and the fireworks, right? You guys, 4th of July, Academy Parade Field, that was you guys, right? For many, many years. It's fascinating. One year I went over and took some pictures I got to watch. Again, making that kind of thing happen. And there's Santa coming into town. The grass truck. The hovercraft, tragic accident on the lake on the ice led to the hovercraft 4 or 5 years ago being purchased. But it serves an important function, I know, when it's not safe to get out on the ice. And you guys can speak to this, but I remember you having to make sort of a human chain to get out there on the ice because of the danger of falling through. So the hovercraft is an important addition. And I mentioned the dedication of the Fireman's Memorial across the street with those great Dalmatian statues that are out there. By the way, you all know why there were Dalmatians? Do you know this? If you ever get a chance, you're into old firefighting. Fort Wayne has a great old fire station museum. Their old fire station. They have the old stables. This is all horse-drawn. The horses are pulling the steam engine. And when we say fire engine, I mean it started as a steam engine which pumped the water out. And so the Dalmatian would run along because they were trying to prevent the horses from getting spooked. The horses are zipping through a busy town, and so the Dalmatians were originally, used to keep the horses kind of in line and keep them protected, and it's kind of interesting. And just a listing of the fire chiefs. I'm not necessarily going to verbally go through all that, but Terry began 2013, right? Where is he? Yep, there you are, 2013. I think I got that right. And so, that's. I promise not to keep going too long, so that's the quick run through. Any questions on any of this before we get to these guys some more? No? All right.
Great job, Jeff. I did want to mention, you mentioned Lance Overmeyer. Before Lance was Donovan Overmeyer. Near to our hearts also, families in the crowd. Appreciate it. And that brought me to mind, we kind of had an evolution. We do save some buildings after seeing all that. But there was kind of evolution, you get a good water supply, and then you decide, it's like a garden hose, I'm sitting there putting a stream on it, or maybe I put my thumb over it. Well, this is our version of thumb. This is the old, when we called solid bore, where it's just nothing more than just a solid stream coming out. Did a good job, put stuff out, put a lot of water in there though sometimes, not always wanted. And then the evolution is kind of a broken stream now, and we have lever and everything else. We're kind of less water, covering more area, and we kind of had that evolution back in, what year would that have been, Terry? Donovan Lance was kind of, Donovan was kind of a little bit, Lance was kind of the other side.
Let's say in the 70s.
So just another fun fact. Questions? We got trucks out here right now. The doors open. Feel free to look at things. One truck in the parking lot obviously has all the rescue gear on it. It's kind of neat to look at. The engine is sitting right here. It's also got all the different pieces of equipment we use to put out structural firefighters. In the seats, you will see the self-contained breathing apparatus, which we really didn't talk about much, but that's another evolution. Behind the drinking fountain here, there's a great big old leather thing in there. It looks like something you'd see on Space Odyssey, but it's a leather hood that's got hoses coming down, and they used to put over a head for interior fire attacks before you had the compressed air on your back. And that hose drug on the ground, in theory, where the cleaner air was at, that's how you would breathe. And that's a really great artifact we have in there that a lot of people which they had. So we're fortunate enough to still have that for the history of the fire department. But today, with the compressed air, we go in, we just have bottles, same situations. You would go underwater, just a different type of a tank. And, we go through that and go in there and we breathe through that stuff so we can, today's plastics and everything in particular, it's a tough environment for us to go into. Yes, question?
Yes, I have a question about the dispatch and call 911. Where are they located? What kind of equipment? Do they have GPS? Because I had an experience a couple of years ago calling them from a neighbor. And I didn't know his address. I knew some of the landmarks. And fire trucks went to the wrong place initially. And first responders luckily came and saw them going the wrong way and called them back. So what's that set up? How am I calling?
When you call 911, and I'm assuming you're calling off a cell phone, it's kind of a trick question on my part, but if it's a hardwired phone, they, boom, it's right then and there, they got the address, as soon as they get the phone, it's right there on their thing. If you come in from the cell phone, they still use the pinging towers and stuff to know your location. It's gonna be, pretty accurate, but if you're in a dead zone and things of that nature. But when we get dispatched, we are told, the location that they see on their 911, if it's not there, we have 911 hang-ups, in which we get those addresses and still respond to them, but they, it comes through the technology of that. We also have a situation where you can have a, you have to, I guess, be close to where it's at. It's not going to be perfect. So we'll still get there and it'll be like we had a medical call last night on Union Road. Union Road in this county starts and stops in about 5 different places. So what happened, you're proud of yourself, I got to Union Road, wrong down Union Road, wrong part. So it's not perfect, but it's real good. And GPS is really helping us out. Anybody, you put on this? But it's came a long way.
Another area where it's a little bit tricky down here where 4 counties come together. Each county has their own 911 dispatch center. So if you're south of the lake, you could call into Fulton County, Alaska, or Stark County. So, if you reference Washington Street, we have Washington Street, Culver, and Monterey has 3 Washington Streets. So it depends on which county you're talking to. So it's something to pay attention to. If you ever have to call 911, if they say, Alaska County 911, hey, I'm in Washington County, I can call. We have 3 over here, right close.
Yes.
I keep saying, the firemen do other things. I remember, of course, my dad was the chief for a while, but I remember one time he come home and just laughed like crazy. Don Meixel called some of the firemen up to raid the whorehouse that was in town, and he said, guys were jumping out all the windows.
That's strictly in theory, correct? I like that. Yes.
I have 2 things I'd like to say. Number 1 is that we had a personal experience with the volunteer fire department here in Culver, and anyway, I want to personally thank Dave Cooper and the other guys who were with him. When it's after midnight, it's that horribly cold spell, and we're trying to tell them on our cell phones where we have a hidden key in a rock. And anyway, they went beyond the call of duty, took care of everything. We were extremely impressed. Another thing, I'd like for Jim Sturman to tell about his fire truck.
This is a brush truck that was in service from 1971 until, I believe, 2013. It's a GMC, and was converted by Howe, which is a company I believe was located in Anderson, Indiana, where this truck was converted into a brush truck. There was a ballpoint pen in the glove compartment from Lance Obermeyer's soft water company, and also a ballpoint pen from a waterbed company that was, I think, in Plymouth or someplace, but it was certainly an 80s kind of a ballpoint pen. The truck's equipped with, I think, with a 300-gallon tank that's in the bed. It has a high volume pump on it, and a winch on the front, and all the lights and sirens are working, and so we've had a great deal of joy giving kids rides on their birthdays, and we do some T-shirts that we give them and whatnot about the about brush truck number 6. So, at any rate, that's in comparison to the new brush truck, which is towards the lake out on the curb. And there's a huge difference. I mean, it's just incredible how rudimentary this piece of equipment is versus what the new stuff is. So, at any rate, it's out there for you to look at.
Jim, tell them about the cottage fire
Oh,
and thank the fire
yes, a
department.
thank you goes out to the Culver Fire Department. A cottage to the north of us, which my son owns now, is similar in shape to the old cottage that was built in about 1905. And in January of
94.
It caught fire. And there was a huge wind across the lake.
Coldest day in history.
Say again?
It was one of the coldest days in history.
Yes, it was just absolutely miserable. Ronnie Lee, I think originally saw the fire and drove around the lake, and I think he called the fire department. At any rate, Culver Fire Department, Culver Union Township Fire Department, was successful in breaking through the ice, pumping water out of the lake in those temperatures, and containing the fire to the second floor of the cottage. Unfortunately, by the time everything transpired, the cottage was demolished. But and then what's there now looks like the old one shape-wise. But it was just incredible that they were able to accomplish that in such blizzard conditions or wind conditions.
Were you there?
I was in the house. Dave was the operator of the engine. You were there. The thing I remember about that goes, and let me finish this for my train of thought. I got to get it out. I still got it at home on VHS tapes. Lance, and all the media outlets were interviewing him, and Lance, I mean, greatest guy in the world, but you know, sometimes his subtlety was not there. You know, he's interviewing him, and his nose is running, and it's frozen, and it's just gross all around. And he's so upset because it's so cold, and his hands got wet, and his gloves were frozen on his hands. And we started off that day and got out there. We knew it was cold, and we come into that. It's the private drive, so it's very limited how you can turn around in there. So we got to position the engine. We're gonna get outside the truck. Engine operators re-jockeying the truck around, and they're getting hoses out. And we're getting it done. It's just kind of unorthodox. And we get it done, and it was so cold that wind coming off that lake was just brutal. And I remember every time you had to do something, you had to hit the back of your legs to break the ice so you could bend your knees. And go back to Lance, you know, he's back in these gloves again. And it started off with everybody was to have an extra pair of gloves. And by the time the day was done, every media outlet he talked to, I think we had an order of about 5,000 pairs of gloves because he was so mad. I want to get 5,000 pairs of gloves. But it was just humorous. It was good knock down the fire, heavy timber on the inside, but it's just, that was one of the fires I remember the most because it's just brutal conditions.
Yeah. But anyway, thank you again for your service.
They were almost happening cold weather, coldest weather there.
Seems like it, yeah, it's the worst time, and you know what time to start, right? 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Or 4, it's never at 9, we're ready.
Well, actually, if I could, one of the things we had planned to do with this, and I mean, we want to be constant time, but giving these guys just at least a moment to talk about what's your most memorable fire. I would like to let Jim, I think, Jim, you're probably the one in the room Jim Grover, who's been with us.
We got Bill Martin over here. Bill Martin, Jim Grover.
All right, yeah,
Jim Owen.
here we go. Each of you mind saying how long you served, and maybe if there's a really Yeah. 40 years here? Okay. Yeah. Bill was on the department when I got on. Tom, I never served with Tom. He got off the department before I got on. We were probably 4 years, 5 years.
frame over the flat roof that was there, and it was a tarred roof that he built it over, and the fire got up in that, and it went the whole length of the market. And when it was all done, we'd chop a hole in the roof, and the fire would come up through the hole, and we'd go down a little bit more and chop another hole. We couldn't even get a hose in because the fire was so hot and moving so quick. And when it was all said and done, yeah, we were busting ice off of our arms, off everything. And there was times I rode back in with Bill on the tanker truck because I was so froze up I couldn't even unzip my coat or unbutton my coat. Bill would come in and got another load of water and went right back out. I think after it was all said and done, there was like 11 departments there fighting that fire. And Argus had come in, and we always joke about Argus because we always told them that Argus would save the foundation.
Still works, it's a joke, but we love it.
Right next door was a house that they called in and said they had smoke in their house. Well, Dad sent me over there with the Argus Fire Department, and they busted the glass out of the door and busted all the windows out.
Still do.
I walked over, turned the handle, they walked in the door. People were saying, well, we think it was our Christmas tree was just smoldering a little bit, we unplugged it, but they busted all the windows. That's my, fire. And there was a lot of others. My dad actually was one of them with the fire phone, and we could ring the buzzer, or the fire siren when there was a fire and nobody else was there to take over. You know, we didn't, go into that phone unless nobody answers it, and then we pick it up and hear what the fire was. Yeah, my dad joined the department in '52 and was there, I think, until '87, somewhere in that area. There's a lot of memories, and all these guys, I remember Captain Fishburne and Moss and Elkville, and those all of them, so did Jim. I mean, you know, these were people that were, when you're on the department, it's your family. There's all of them, Al Kerfoot, Jim Grover, not Jim Grover, but Jim Dickey, Shoddy, there was so many of them. Yeah, they were all family.
Thanks, Tom.
Jim, you want to tell us about your years of service? How long were you?
Well, we didn't have a way to fight fire like we have now. In fact, the night I got over on, I pulled up to the other corner of the meeting room, and the rubber fire coat, their head goes, rubber gloves, and the whistle blows go up.
You were trained.
But we didn't have the water, we kept running out of water. You know, we get the fire almost halfway down, and then we had water, we had to wait till the tanker came. The tanker was an old fuel truck, and you had to pour the hose out, and that's climb up on top. Truck, fill that, going today, so it just wasn't. If it was through the roof, it saved the trees.
We do have, sometimes I'm always remember telling these guys that have been on the department, how long, what you doing, how you been enough. Well, Jim doesn't remember all of it, but we've got some dates, and it looks like 1975 to 2014, 39 years.
Just shy of 40 years.
I couldn't keep you. I tried, believe me, I tried to get you to stay as long as you could, but as everything else, family first.
She passed away before we could go tomorrow. Which 3 years looking after her.
Another one I see here that we didn't bring up, Jim Bonine was on the department for, Jim 10,
What's the lead?
We were at the funeral home, and whenever Mrs. Burns would go to the grocery store, we would answer the fire phone for her. And I remember when we had to manually do the fire whistle, I was just a young girl, and I would shake while I held that thing down, and it was really something. But I would like to know how many firemen you have on the department now, and do you have any women?
16, and yes, 1. At this time, through the year, we've had 5 females through the years that I've been here. And before that, I don't think there ever was one that I have heard of.
What's the max we've had on at one time?
21, I believe.
21? I think max we can have is
25.
25. And that's evolved because you mentioned all these great names. These guys were in the area, they had businesses, you know, that they left. They left their livelihood to come do this stuff, and it would take out all day. We've lost some of the mom and pop businesses in town. Terry and a few others are their own business owners, but it's tough because that draw pool is getting smaller and smaller as, you know, this stuff takes over too.
Still looking for a few good men, just so you know.
And women. Yes.
There's a fun story about the fire department. When the old food shed was down there, you guys would come down and you would empty your hose on the lakeside, and it would go over the top of the food shed, and all the campers would be on the other side.
Oh, yeah.
And on hot days, the campers just were so grateful to them.
We still want
Every now and then, the Woodcraft would ask us to come over and shoot water so the kids could, you know, when it gets sweltering like they're calling it.
3 days a week.
Yeah, maybe.
So over the new food shed, or?
Well,
No, we
try to keep an eye on them now. I remember doing that, though. That was shoot it over the building. The kids didn't really see the fire truck, just the water coming over the
Yeah,
top.
we really thought that was fun.
I wonder if we could just, I don't want to force anybody, but again, this is part of what we want to do. Does anybody want to speak to a particular, like, this is the fire I really remember, kind of like the Frozen one, on Juke Duty?
Yes, the one down here on the Lakeshore Garage.
Sure,
The last Monday in January of 1972, the front of it went down in less than 30 minutes. My aunt came in from Plymouth and she could see the smoke from West High. The adage that you come to the fire department to get your equipment is a good one. It happened right at the noon hour. All the men were coming in to town from their various jobs. Of course, they seen the fire. They were going to their eating places. They all stopped at the fire. No equipment. Dave Burns came in from the academy, and he stopped, and all the men were there. He says, "Where's my equipment?" He says, "Get down here to the..." We had Monterey, Plymouth, Argus, Lighters Ford. I think we had a total about 6 fire departments down there. Again, like the manor over on the east side, the roof was bowed. It was totally tarred to no end because the owner would never, first owner would never put a new roof on it, so just up tar on tar on tar. There was only one injury. Rick hit somebody in the head. I was working down at the coffee shop at the time, and Larry Lowry was the mailman. And he always had a set routine. He delivered his mail, he came in, delivered the mail, he picked up his pack of cigarettes at Dad's. And he came back in, got his cigarettes, and as he was going out, he said, "Oh, by the way, your dad's place is on fire."
Gotta know Peanut.
Pearl had this gate at the end of where the cashier was, and it was closed. I don't know how I got out, but I threw Larry his cigarettes, went through the gate, went through the front doors. Max the cokeman had just came in and had his route. Again, it was, and I went right across Lakeshore Drive without looking. And Max's words to me, "Young lady, you look both directions before you cross the street. I said, Dad's place is on fire. You know, you don't look. He says, no, it's not. I was just there. I says, the place is on fire. He says, no, it's not. We both turned around and it had windows like here in the front. And all you could see was pure, bright, red, orange. And they fought for all day. It was one of the coldest January days, so like you said, it wasn't as, where the ice built up then. And I had one salesman that came in and said, these damn firemen are standing at the end of the building with 5 hoses on 4 little pumps, or 4 little pipes. And I looked at him, I said, put you into the building. He says, the east end. I says, well, good for them. Well, why do I go sit in the building? I says, I don't care about the building. He says, what? I said, there's 8,000 gallons of gas underneath this thing. And I said, the pipes are the vent pipes to it. I said, do you want to be standing here?
Good story.
And, you know, they say the 8,000 gallons a gallon because really, truthfully, I don't think this whole area would have been here.
Could have been a little explosion.
12 o'clock is probably the most dangerous time because you don't know if it's a fire or just a whistle.
Well, you know, and they had just really basically filled the tanks, all of them. They just came in that just a few days before and filled all tanks to, you know, your capacity.
I know we're keeping you on in the heat here, again, ironically, but anything you guys want to add? Anything as far as fire memory?
Hey Jeff, I think one memory that he's going to hate me for doing this, but as you come on and you heard how we train and what we do and how fast we do it, we're timed to do things. Anthony Bonine is one of our newest members. And I think I heard him say that he would like to show you how fast he could put his gear on right now. Come on. Bob, get the clock started. Let's go. Come on.
Put your gear on, we're not going to have time, but show the crowd exactly what we do when we come in. It usually comes a little faster pace. I'll explain what he's putting on. We got bunker pants and bunker boots that we have. It's already, pre-down. We've got a Nomex hoodie he's putting on. That's kind of a ski mask type of thing. That's fire retardant, like everything is. Nothing's fireproof, fire retardant. The gear has 3 layers: a vapor layer, a heat layer, and okay, that's 100 years ago I do that. Okay, putting on his red suspenders, hold on his pants, sucking it in, put his gear in, pull his straps down.
And when you first come into the fire service, usually what is this stuff and how does this work? And in a nutshell, I'm going to tell you, I think you can put all that gear on and an SCA bottle in less than a minute.
Really?
We just practiced here a couple months ago, and I don't wear that stuff as much as I did when I was Anthony's age. But I still made it in a little bit over a minute.
The coat has a thumb hole in the sleeve of it, so that way it doesn't ride up on you. This is an aftermarket thing. It's a new standard because of we do stuff along the road on right-of-ways, so we don't get hit by traffic. So this would not be on him if he went to a fire, a construction fire. Got a light, got his radio here, 900 radio, he's got his helmet on. He's got a mask in a bag, pull your mask out, that he would actually don over his head, and then that hood you see comes up over his hair and stuff on the back of that mask. And then he would have his bottle in the back, like I said, just like something you would have if you're going scuba diving. But then those are in the trucks. But this is where he jumps in the truck and he put that SCBA on it. They're in the seats. But he's ready to go. Needless to say, it's to the 9, you don't have to wonder where he's gonna take all that.
They continue to make our stuff better and lighter as technology progresses. But if you put him on a scale right now, he just added about 35 pounds to his body weight. And then when he throws on his tank, that's going to be about another 35 pounds. Wow. So we're looking just a firefighter geared up, coming off the truck with no equipment, no hoses, axes, flashlights, all that crazy stuff. 70, 75, 80 pounds additional weight. And then, yeah, once he grabs an axe, you know, we carry 8-pound axes. Our hose line, he's going to be pulling another 100 pounds, so he easily doubles his weight fully equipped.
Where are the gloves?
And with that in a price tag of about, that outfit right there, like $2,500.
And he's carrying vice grips and wire cutters?
Yeah, because in fires, a lot of times, if you're in a house fire and the copper wire's down, already melted everything off, flip, get it out of your way. Car fires, when a car in an accident, take the battery post, we don't take them off, clip, you're done. We just do for our own personal hand tools that we carry. A lot of the guys have their own specific tools that they like, but pretty much there's tools you can grab with these guys and grab their gear, what's in the pocket. And a lot of different ones out there. So, thanks, Anthony. I know you hate that.
Fire department had a wreck at West High, Culver had to respond to that, and that's the only time I ever saw the bad crowd. It's dangerous just driving through fires. These trucks, I think later found out that the truck wasn't full of water, so the water shifted when they went around the West High curve, and it killed, what, 5?
And in that, why he brought that up, we evolved through time by the cart before the horse deal, right? So from that particular accident in the standards of national fire protection, no longer allowed to ride on the tailboard of a truck. That one caused that. And at that same time, they started baffling water tanks. They put things inside, so with the water shift, it really can't shift so much. It'd have to hit these baffles, but it was kind of, and that was another precedent that fire changed nationally.
Along with open caps. Used to have open cap fire trucks back row, but can't have that anymore.
Right on the tailboard like we showed you in some of these? No. It's against everything that there is.
Next time you drive to Plymouth, stop and look at the memorial. There's a memorial there.
Oh, we have.
First thing we tell these guys is personal safety. No matter what happens, I'm going home.
Just Gary, I just a little fast, because I always ask when I hear there's been a fire, what's the cost? So do you guys investigate it, or does somebody come in to investigate it?
Our job is to prove cause and origin of what's called. What caused the fire and where.
So that's a part of your training?
That's part of what we have to do. Once it gets to a certain stage, if there's a death caused by, or we see something that we kind of think is a little weird, we call in the state fire marshal's office, and they come in and do an investigation, and then with that, then insurance companies get involved, and then they send in their agents, and like fires that we've had here that I know for sure, I've had up to 5 different fire investigators come to the scene after the fire and put their views on what started the fire, where was the fire, was it set, was it, just happened, because sometimes it does, so hope that answers. Anybody else? I know it's kind of warm, we don't keep you, but we could talk fires all day. You got some guys here. Anybody else got anything? Yes, sir.
What's your response time over the years?
Our response time over the years. Actually, I think now we're kind of a little slower than like when Jim and them did, because those guys went in and they held that for the fire. You know, they do everything in their power, they run, they go, and now we try to be a little more safe. We try to be conscious of the people around us, and the I'm going home thing. I want to drive safe. I've been in an accident going to a fire scene. Before the blue lights were issued here, I didn't have one, and the guy turned. I had my hazard lights on going to the fire course. I was probably going a little faster than I should have been. Turned in front of me. Well, while the guys were going to a fire, there's an accident in the other end of town. That was me. So Our response time for our total area is anywhere from the maximum for the farthest place is 10 minutes. From the time we get to town, 10 minutes. And that's what I tell the insurance companies, they call all the time. So what's my fire rating? Our fire rating here is a 6 on a scale of 0 to 10. We're a 6. We're trying to improve on that. We've upped our training, we've upped our water. This ladder truck is going to up us, and then we get this every 2 years through the Institute of Insurance. They look at it. It used to be every 5 to 7. Now they're doing it more because we're evolving to get smarter, have more water, have more training. The town and the academy work with us on hydrants, all the hydrants. Every year I go, what's the hydrant flow? They go through every year and test it. Make sure how much water can I get there, and that's what the insurance company wants to know. Some of the things that we're fortunate here is because we have a lake, and they say, how much water can you get on the east shore in your initial response? And I go, well, if it's a house fire, I can take a boat over there and I have unlimited. And they go, you have unlimited? We have a pump on our boat that we sit right in the water and can pump to our engine, which pressures more of the hoses, unlimited. The insurance company doesn't accept it. But we have that capability. We have portable pumps that we can go to a pond or a ditch. Besides that, we run, Dave, 4,000 gallons if we take the engine and the tanker to initial fall. We have 4,000 gallons to dump on your burning whatever.
500 the first 2 trucks, 500.
They're 5,500. So that's what your insurance company looks at. So every month you pay your insurance bill, that's what's rated.
What can you just pull out of a hydrant?
Each hydrant's different here in town. If you're closer to the main line, you get more water volume, not pressure. The pressure's pretty much the same. Dave knows more about that on the hydrants because he used to work for the city, but it's the volume of water that you can get because we have pumps, and if we hook up to a hydrant and we're pumping more water than that hydrant's flowing out, we can actually suck the line out of the ground. We're sucking on it so hard, more than it's flowing. And Lance Shane kind of changed that around a few years ago when he was into that, talked about that 5-inch hose. That is actually a water line on top of the ground for us. We can hook onto a hydrant, 5 inches of water, it's like gallon jugs, and then for thousands of feet. Fire rating comes at a 1,000 feet from a hydrant will change your insurance rate. If you don't have a hydrant within 1,000 foot of your home, your fire rating goes to a 9 in our community. People on the lake, sorry, we don't have hydrants. I've been working with a few of the people over there trying to get them to put in a well to, throw together. You guys, they're doing it out in the rurals up north to just put a pump in and put a hydrant out there. You got that hydrant within 1,000 foot of your home. Your insurance rating's gone from a 9 to a 6. Money. Any other facts and fictions? Because we can make up stuff. No, really, go ahead, Tom.
Well, this is kind of on a plane with of course, my dad was assistant chief before he was chief under Dave Burns, and there was a call for a fire. My dad, we were farmers, and he was out in the field, and combine and cleaned up, I believe it was, and he got a call on his radio, and he started backing that combine up. There was one tree in the field, and he backed up right into that tree.
Well, we know what happened next.
Oh, yeah.
We want to thank the firemen who are here, right? I mean, everybody, all the firemen aren't here, so just a round of applause.
Thank you, Terry, and all of the firefighters. And we talked mostly about fires, but they've done an awful lot for drownings and all different emergencies in Culver. We didn't even get to that point.
Right. The story of the hovercraft that I came about, we had people out on the ice. More than one time that I can think of, my first time was we started the diving here in the 80s, I would say, 90s. I don't know, it's been a long time since we've done that. We've evolved on that and picked up on that. But when you get to ice rescue, it's a whole different animal. How thick's the ice when you run out on it? I don't know. Well, apparently the guys that were out there didn't know either. We lost 2-3 people. So when we go to send one of my guys, the first time I ever did was on the south end. We went to the south end. I ran out there and I'm in this bunker gear and thinking to myself, this is not safe. So dawn in my gear as I was running out to pull somebody out of there on an ice boat. By the time I got out there, I was in my stocking feet and my blue jeans and a t-shirt to this guy. And I grabbed onto him and held him. He had a boat, ice boat. And I'm trying to pull him out, and he's laying down trying to pull him out. I was like, what? I can't do it. What is going on? I should be able to do it. He wouldn't let go of the boat. He goes, I don't want to lose the boat. And by that time, the other guy would come in, and a buddy of mine, Denny, who's not here, he's pushing a boat out to me, just a V-bottom boat, so I could get out farther. And I got right up next to him, and I said, you're letting go of that boat. And I just, bam! But that's a story that we saved it, but it took me almost 15 minutes to walk out to where he was at, as I'm throwing my boots off and gear and running, and it came, we had 45 minutes, I think, a couple of years ago, somebody put out in the hole, the guys walked all the way,
Me and Bobby, all the way across the lake.
and that hovercraft has cut that time down to, it can be from one end to the other in 4 minutes. Safely, with nobody in the water, nobody getting hurt. That is exactly why that vehicle is here.
Well, we started the program with the pledge, and just a quick story of when my father and granddaddy's OK Rubber Welders building burned during the war. Mr. Klein, who owned the wooden building at the time, was out back burning something, and the wind picked up, caught the rubber dust, and the whole thing exploded. My dad had come home for lunch. This was before I was born. A couple years, but it came home for lunch, the telephone rang, my mom went to answer the phone, find out where the fire was, and the fire wasn't going off. My dad said, you don't need to answer the phone, I know right where it is, because it was all black smoke. So in the end, the building burned completely down. They found tires hanging on trees miles away, but the last thing standing was the American flag. On the chairs, if you are so inclined to help our volunteer firemen, here's information how you can do it. Take it home with you and see what you can do to help support our firemen and all they do for us. And thank you again for your